Good afternoon. Again, my name is Chief Joel Abram from the Association of Iroquois and Allied Indians, and today I speak on behalf of the Chiefs of Ontario who advocate for 133 First Nations across the province. We are gathered on our traditional territories, as was previously mentioned, and also acknowledge that the treaty peoples on both sides, on the Crown side and also on First Nation side as well. And we're here today in conjunction with Environmental Defence and others to raise serious concerns about Bill 5, Protect Ontario by Unleashing Our Economy Act, and to call on Ontario government to immediately halt its advancement. Let's be clear, First Nations do not oppose development. We understand that Ontario must remain a competitive jurisdiction to navigate global economic realignment. However, we cannot and will not support development that is done the wrong way, ignores our rights, and puts the environment and our heritage at risk. And there are 4 critical risks in Bill 5 we have identified. The first one is heritage and burials. Ontario and First Nations have worked in good faith on repatriating cultural and sacred items and protecting burial sites. Bill 5 would undermine that progress. It authorizes the Lieutenant Governor and Council to exempt projects from archaeological requirements. Artifacts may be reported only to landowners and the minister, not to First Nations, and this violates the spirit of reconciliation and risks international condemnation. The second thing is mining and decision-making power. The bill grants sweeping powers to the Minister of Energy and Mines to authorize or deny mining leases and override the MLAS system. First Nations are frozen out of critical decisions, and without their participation, mining projects will increasingly face resistance, delay, and legal challenge. Thirdly, environmental rollbacks. Bill 5 guts core environmental legislation. It rewrites the Endangered Species Act, removing recovery strategy requirements and enabling exemptions from species protection for economic reasons. It also undermines the Environmental Assessment Act, and these changes sever the link between environmental impacts and the duty to consult, erasing the very triggers that bring First Nations to the table. We can't state loudly enough that echoing American deregulation with regards to stripping away environmental protections is a race to the bottom, and we have to think about our next 7 generations, not just the next 7 quarters. Also, special economic zones. Perhaps most dangerously, the new Special Economic Zones Act allows Ontario to declare any area a deregulated zone without limits, without safeguards, and without consultation. And this removes zoning, permitting, and legal frameworks, allowing project proponents to bypass consultation obligations entirely. And also, Bill 5 violates Section 35 of the Constitution, which protects Aboriginal treaty rights. It ignores Supreme Court rulings like Haida Nation and Tsilhqot'in, which mandate consultation before development. It also breaches Canada's commitments under the United Nations Declarations on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, which requires free, prior, and informed consent, which the Supreme Court has now said is federal law and must be followed. And so economic development cannot be used as a pretext to override constitutional and international obligations. So we stand with Environmental Defence and other civil society organizations calling this bill dangerous and undemocratic. Environmental Defence has rightly stated that Bill 5 would repeal the Endangered Species Act and remove core protections threatening our communities and future generations. We acknowledge Ontario's renaming its Ministry of Indigenous Affairs to include First Nations economic reconciliation. But let's be clear, economic reconciliation without rights recognition is not reconciliation. It is extraction without consent. It is development without accountability, and we won't accept it. So again, our call to action is we're calling on Ontario government to immediately pause Bill 5, undertake First Nations-led consultations, include non-derogation clauses to protect treaty and inherent rights, add explicit exemptions for First Nations laws, respect our duty and right to steward lands, waters, and communities. In conclusion, Ontario cannot legislate away its responsibilities. Bill 5 represents a direct threat to reconciliation, to the environment, and to the rights of First Nations across the province. Also, changes to legislation have to be public and free and consultative, whereas putting things in regulations, you can do a lot of things behind closed doors, which is, I believe, is what a lot of the intent behind this bill as it stands now is.